Hi, my name is Jana, and I'm making an altered book art journal. I'm going to use this photographic guide to tennis, and I'm going to sew some marker paper into it because I got my friend some really nice markers for his birthday. When you do this, you're going to need to pay attention to the spine of the book you choose. This book has sewn in signatures. Those little bundles are signatures, and that is perfect for this type of altered book. There are many kinds, and I'll do other videos for other types another time. But for this type, you're going to want signatures of sewn in paper. So the first thing you do is find the center of your signatures. And you start looking around at pages you're going to remove. We're going to take out a lot of pages out of this book so we make room for our new marker paper. So you find the center of the signature and you find the pages that are opposite. So like you find one page here and then find on the other side of the signature the same page that is torn in half now, because they're just one big piece of paper that's sewn down the middle. So when you take one leaf out, there's another one dangling off on the other side. So you have to be kind of strategic about which pages you take. You could take a really cool page, like if you take a stupid page on one side, on the other side of the signature, it might be something really cool. So you have to kind of look at both at the same time. So I'm just flipping through, kind of getting a feel for how many I'm going to want to take out and how many I'm going to want to leave. These old books are funny. Sometimes it can get really hard to decide which ones to take out the further along you get. You get down to just solid gold and you have to still take some pages out. It's painful, but you can save them for other projects or recycle them, and don't be a hoarder. It's hard to resist though. So you take some out of each signature and try and keep it even throughout the book. This will keep the pressure on the spine even when we're done, and it'll make the book sturdier. I'm just pulling some more out. Now I'm going to the next signature. You have to be careful too about the stitches, because it's an old book and it's going to be looser with fewer pages. So be gentle on the stitching that you don't damage it. Get all the little chunks of paper out of the stitching. And you go through like this a couple times. You go through each signature at least 3 times each. It depends on the thickness of the book and things like that, of course. And you can do whatever you want. You can just take one off if you want, because it's your book. You can literally do whatever you want. But the way I like to do it is take about 2/3 of the book out, because I like to put a lot of blank in there. And not necessarily blank. Sometimes I put other weird book pages I find in other books. I'll just make like a Frankenbook, like a Frankenstein book that I draw all over. It's like the worst vandalism. Like, you know, when you draw in textbooks in high school or whatever, it's like that, except like, it's like if you could collage an entire book. It's making a book collage, taking pieces of different things out and putting different pieces in. So here at this part, I left some of the sound on. It's fast forward, so I have like a little squeaky chipmunk voice, and I'm humming and probably making annoying sounds, but I'll be quiet. I left this part in because I love the sound of the paper. It's so rustly and good. Some of these pages were just amazing. Yeah, I kept the one about psychology and sportsmanship. That's funny. And that cool diagram of a court. So here I'm checking to see if I have enough pages out. I don't want it to be too thick. I'm trying to thin it out so I can add our fresh paper. I'm gonna have to take a few more sheets. This is where it starts getting tough, so I want to keep all of them. All right, so I'm feeling good about it. I'm going to start very carefully cutting down one side of the binding. I tried these scissors and they were too little, so I went and got my X-Acto knife. Be very careful. I mean, not just because you're going to cut yourself if you're not, but because this part, it's so easy to mess up and poke right through the spine. I would recommend trying this on a bunch of just junk books that are moldy or are getting thrown away or whatever. Just practice on a couple before you jump into a really cool book that you want, because I have messed up several spines. I still do if I get impatient and just start getting kind of reckless. I just want to get it done. You have to go slow and patiently on those spines. I did cut a little bit into the binding, so here I'm putting some tape along the binding just to secure it. It was still intact, but it never hurts to have extra tape on things. So this is how I got the signatures ready of the fresh paper. I got these big sketchbook papers and folded them in half. I can't find my bone folder. I have one, but I'm just using the back of my X-Acto knife. And then I'm using my Fiskars paper trimmer. You can use scissors or whatever you have, but I'll tell you what, this is one of my favorite things. If you're going to invest in some craft tools and you like paper crafts, I love my paper cutter. It was like $38 at Michael's. And it's cool because it's got this thing you can hold the paper down before you put the blade down. It's a separate flap. You can also replace the blades really easily, and they're available in lots of stores. So get yourself a paper cutter and cut up whatever kind of paper you want to sew into your book, and then put them in little stacks. Make your own signatures. So I did stacks, I think of 5 here. And it, again, depends on the thickness of the paper. A lot of this isn't really a formula. You just have to kind of feel it out. I believe I ended up doing 3 signatures with 5 in each, because it's kind of thick paper. It's more cardstocky because I got alcohol markers for them, and I don't want them to bleed through everything. So now I just poked an awl through the middle, from the inside to the outside through the binding. And I'm getting a needle. I just got these at a thrift store too. They're darning needles and some wax thread. I love this wax thread. I'm just using this yellow color because I think it's kind of gross looking, but you're not going to really see it when it's done. So I'm saving my pretty, I have every color ever, and I'm saving my pretty colors for when I do a type of binding where you see the thread. So here I'm putting the first hole through the signature, through the middle, from the inside to the outside, and we're doing a 3-hole pamphlet stitch on this. So you go from the inside to the outside in the middle, and then up to the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter, just to one of the edges. from the outside back to the inside. So I'm going to make the hole and then use the little point of the awl to guide the needle through without poking the other pages. This can be tricky. You got to really just feel it out and wrangle the pages around, and just don't panic. Just go slow, and if you're freaking out, just stop, because it's not going to keep going without you. It's really easy though. You just poke 3 holes and then you go out the middle, into the top. Then instead of going out the middle hole again, you go all the way down to the bottom, or to the top if you started on the bottom, all the way to the opposite end of the paper. My handle was coming off my awl. All right, then you poke another hole right through the whole thing, through the signature and through the spine. And then your thread goes out the opposite and back in the middle. And that is a pamphlet stitch. Out the middle, into one side, out the opposite side, into the middle. And I like to put each end of the thread on the opposite sides of the long middle thread and tie it, because I don't know, I don't know if it's really secure, but it feels like it. It feels like it's more sturdy. And then you just do that with each signature. And I will say too, when you get closer to the back cover, if you're working front to back like I am here, the further away from the cut you get, the further away from the open end of the binding, the trickier it gets, because you get less and less room to maneuver the needles. I also have used, at the dollar store, you can get usually like a weave kit to sew hair. And it'll have like a really sturdy black, usually cotton or nylon thread, and not very sharp, kind of dull hooked needle. And those are perfect for binding. You can get a whole 2 needles and a whole thing of thread for $1. Well, $1.25 now, because the dollar stores, everything's going up. So that's it. I sewed all of the signatures in, and now we can start reinforcing the binding. I decided to keep this cover on, this book jacket, and the plastic. This is an old library book, and I kind of like the crinkly plastic cover over the jacket. It's glued to the front though, so we're gonna have to figure something out for that. First, I'm just duct taping the binding together of the spine. Usually I would also put a piece of, or like a little seam of glue in the spine, but I don't know, I just wasn't thinking and put some duct tape first, so it won't have glue in the spine, but I'm sure it won't matter. It's going to be very sturdy. I just way overbuild these things. So that's all flush. I make sure that it's folded down well. Now the top cover, I want to glue the paper down over that duct tape, but I wanted to keep that stamp from the library visible, so I just tore the top paper, so it's gonna have a torn edge. But I like imperfect kind of weird things in my books like that. I put Eileen's Tacky Glue, which is in fact America's favorite glue. And now I'm wiping it around with just a scrap piece of paper. I like to smear it so it's, you know, when you put lines of glue and then smush it down, sometimes you can still see the lines. I like to spread it out so you don't have that. It'll just stick evenly. Now I'm getting a piece of tape. This is fabric or paper tape. It's from the medical, like, health and beauty section of any store. It's for bandages and such, but I really like it for this. It's sticky enough, it stays well, and the texture is nice. It blends into the paper really, really well. Alternatively, you can use framer tape or like hinge tape, but I couldn't find any in my town, so instead of ordering some from Amazon or whatever, I just decided to go with this paper tape. So once you get all of the crevices taped up, another thing you might want to do is put some gesso on some of the pages. Gesso is a medium, it's a substrate that people use in art. You paint it on canvases and things to get them ready for other kinds of paint. It makes the surface a little bit gritty. So I'm going to also use this matte medium. It's Golden brand, which is really nice. I love this brand. And then I believe it's Liquitex Gesso. I didn't look. But it's just clear gesso. You can get, usually it's white or kind of translucent white or black. But I just get clear, and then I can add a little bit of liquid acrylic to it and make it any color I want. I also use cheap brushes for this because even if you clean them really well, this kind of is going to mangle your brush. So now I'm putting a little bit of iridescent gold and green gold Liquitex professional liquid paint, liquid acrylic. And I am mixing it up with the gesso just on the paper and painting it all around. I'm going to put another page behind it to protect the pages in the back. And I'm just doing one page for now, or one side of the page, I mean, because if you do both sides, besides sticking together, you want to give it a really good long time to dry, because even if it feels dry on the surface and you paint the other side, you can trap moisture inside the paper and make it weaker. So you need to give it a really long time to dry. Once it's dry, it might be a little curly, but that's okay because when the book is closed for a long time, it'll flatten out. Thanks for watching.